Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And you know what? If you're a professional athlete who wants to know how to create financial safety through investing in real estate from a 3-time Olympic gold medalist, then guess what? This is the conversation that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. I promise. Because you know what? Prior to winning 3 Olympic gold medals as an assistant director for Team USA basketball, he was also an alum of Villanova University. He's currently the director of college scouting and player evaluation for the NBA's Brooklyn Nets. He also is featured in the Success Habits of Super Achievers, which is a best-selling book. He's also the CEO of Metamorph Investments. And you know what? Probably the 2 titles that he takes the most pride in is husband and father. I want to welcome to today's show, Mr. BJ Johnson. BJ, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Billy. Super excited to be joining in with you. Look forward to this conversation.
Oh, me too, man. My heart is happy already. And I'm sure you're going to be delivering so much value for everybody through your experience. And I'm ready for us to start jumping into today's conversation. So BJ, and I know you've had a chance to listen to or watch a couple of shows. And so, we kind of asked everybody some of the same questions, but you're going to get your own individual questions. Don't worry. But start us off, man. Help us understand, where is it that you live in the U.S.?
So I was born and raised in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I just moved recently, last 3 years, back to the area. So we're in a town outside of Greensboro called Burlington, North Carolina, which is pretty much right in the middle between Greensboro and Durham. Everybody knows the different markets there. The Raleigh-Durham market is taking off, and the Charlotte market is also taking off. So we're kind of right there in the middle of that on the I-85, I-40 corridor there in North Carolina. So Central North Carolina is where I call home.
All right. Love it. And I know you've been some other places, and we're definitely going to jump into those things as well, but that's a great state of North Carolina. So BJ, what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
You know what? I had an interesting phone call yesterday. I'm here in Virginia now doing some stuff with my day job. And on the way up, I had a conversation with another investor that we've kind of started, along the same time and same lines and things. And not to get too philosophical, but, during our conversation, I recognized that our language has changed some. So I feel like I've learned a lot about myself and started implementing some of the things in my life that are now really starting to take root. And they were still kind of, I think they would tell them they were stuck in certain things. So for me, just understanding how much growth has taken place in my life over the last couple of years, it was kind of just one of those aha light bulb moments that, like, wow, sometimes for me personally, as I'm kind of doing my deal and getting in my routine, I don't necessarily take the time to look back and see how far I've come. So that moment was like, wow, I have made some changes in my life that have produced some pretty good results that I'm enjoying. And that was a moment that I really took note of how far I've come in this time over the last few years.
Wow, man. Thank you so much for sharing that with me and with the entire Going Long family, because I think a lot of times it is those specific moments in your life when you just give yourself the opportunity to recognize the growth that's happened over a period of time. And you can really say, you know what, I guess I got caught up in the day-to-day, but if I look at it, the body of work over X amount of time, wow, there's really been some growth here. And just to be able to savor that moment for a moment and then be able to move on and share it with us today, man. So thanks for starting us off in the right direction. And, BJ, I mentioned a couple of things about your life, some really high level things, but I would love for you to share with the Going Long family more about your story, your backstory. Tell us about some of the different decisions that you made along your journey to get to this point, to where you are, and before we start talking about where you're going.
Yeah, for sure. So as I mentioned, I was, born and raised in Greensboro, North Carolina, 5th out of 6 kids. So tragedy hit our family early, where my father passed away when I was about 2 years old, and my mom was pregnant with my little brother at the time. So it's one of those things that, dealing with all that adversity, not knowing, as a parent now, understanding the implications of that and how difficult it was for her to deal with that. So, but one of those things that learning from her growing up and her perseverance and her ability to fight through, getting us all through school and getting us all the ability to go to college of our choice. So many great lessons, from my mom's life that I continue to take on through today. So yeah, she raises hard, she raises well, very stern and disciplined approach, but it really paid off big dividends, and was able to go to Villanova University, and ended up playing basketball there. I wasn't, on the basketball team right away. I had gotten cut a couple of years, and it was my dream to play basketball at that level. And, it didn't work out, the first time, again, got cut. And then the next year they canceled tryouts. I had to work with the women's team that year. And then finally, my junior year, I was able to be invited. I didn't have to try out. Crazy times that I didn't have to be trial for the team. They invited me to be on the men's team. And from there, that was probably a pivotal moment for my life, just because, it was one of the first times that I saw a major dream come true in my life. And that has really set the tone for me for the rest of my life, to the ability to dream big, to persevere even when things aren't looking like they're going to come my way, and to see that come true, and then to see all the fruits that have taken place from that decision, not only to go to Villanova but making that team has really been, it was a life-changing experience. So did that, graduated from Villanova, and then moved out to Colorado Springs right after school. Some circumstances, I thought I was going to go overseas and play basketball, live that dream out further, but that wasn't in the cards. So found myself babysitting and substitute teaching for a little bit until I got into the computer industry with Lockheed Martin, doing software engineering in Colorado. And eventually, I didn't know USA Basketball was there in Colorado Springs at the time. And when I found out, I was able to make some connections there. And a couple of years later, was able to join on to the Olympic movement with USA Basketball, which again was another pivotal moment in my life, where I gave up what I considered a high salary, doing software engineering, to take a half pay cut, to go there and chase my dream of basketball. Everybody called me crazy at the time, but I knew in my heart that it was the right thing to do. And then from that moment on, life has really taken off for me. As you mentioned, I got a chance to attend 3 Olympics, from Beijing to London and Rio, and be around the best players and coaches, in the highest level of our industry in the world there, and experience some amazing times. So that leap of faith that I took to jump to USA Basketball was awesome, and spent 12 years there. And in the midst of that time in Colorado Springs, that's where I really got the bug for real estate investing, and was able to, like a lot of people, read Robert Kiyosaki's book, and that inspired me to jump in and got to start with our first fourplex there, and really that took off, from there. So doing that, and then after 2016, after the Rio Olympics, felt that was a great time to maybe shift gears a little bit, and we actually adopted our son, during that year, so that made the desire to get closer to our family in North Carolina, even greater. So the opportunity opened up to switch jobs and to live in North Carolina, but work in Brooklyn with the Nets organization. And that's kind of where we are today. So it's been a wild ride, an amazing journey. Now that I look back on some of the things that, some of these leaps of faith that I took at the time, were like, wow, that was a pretty big leap of faith, but it has definitely been, an amazing journey of life that I would not trade a second of it for the world.
Wow, man. And you know what? Definitely not wanting to trade any 1 second for the world, and having had the opportunity to go through and live so many different experiences. I mean, just as one of 6 children. And I think you just said that each one of you had the opportunity to go to college. Each one of you with your mom raising 6 kids must have taught you a lot. Maybe we can unpack some of that. And then you also had an opportunity to really move and live in different places, which I'm sure has helped to formulate some of the way that you approach the world today. I know that you're doing that on a global scale, which is something I definitely want us to talk about. But something really rang out to me as you just mentioned. You had these pivotal points where you were actually able to live out your dream, and you mentioned kind of 2 things. And you mentioned something happened at Villanova. I just want to make sure that people understand specifically what the dream that you had for yourself and how you were able to achieve that, number 1. And then number 2, you said a moment, if I understood it correctly, happened when you were in Colorado Springs. So could you just help us just to make sure everybody understands the goals and the dreams that you set out for yourself and actually how you accomplish those dreams? Because I think that's really important.
Yeah, for sure. So let's start with the Villanova piece. So in high school, my biggest dream was, one to be in the NBA, and then also to get a Division I college scholarship. That was the big thing for me. I want to get a college scholarship at a major Division I university. I wasn't that good, now looking back on it, but it was still a dream of mine, so I didn't care. So I didn't get that dream right away coming out of high school. I actually got injured my last year, so that kind of really took a lot of the steam out of that. But it didn't stop me from dreaming. So I was able to go to Villanova, through academics, and I decided I'm just going to try to walk on, and go for it that way. So doing that, I worked hard. It's funny, looking back now, everybody was partying on the weekends and doing their thing. I was in the gym, me and my late 70s Jewish buddy. We would shut the gym down. He would take me to a diner and share with me some nuggets of wisdom afterwards. But that was our weekend routine, and I worked hard. And so getting cut that first year was really disappointing. But I made up in my mind that, if I got cut every year, at least I would know it's not meant to be. I'm not going to give up on my dreams. So I'm gonna pursue it, go all out. Like I said, the next year they canceled tryouts, but I had made up in my mind. I made a decision that I'm going to stick this thing out and I'm going to see it all the way through until, there's no potential left in it. And then, like I said, on that junior year, I was running stairs at the top right after our women's practice. I thought they were getting ready to kick me out of the gym because you're not supposed to be in there when the men's are practicing. But to my surprise, that was the day that they invited me to be on the men's team. So that was kind of how that dream came about, that I had that goal to make the men's basketball team at Villanova. And then, even through the adversity, I decided, it's not going to dampen my dream. I'm going to go forward with all my heart. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. But I'm never going to leave saying, what if, or I should have just tried one more time. I was going to, put it all out there and make sure that was done, and it worked out great. So.
Oh, man. I love that. And I know in something similar then happened when you were in Colorado Springs, but I appreciate that you take us through the detail of understanding where you wanted to end up. And you were also at the same time focused on, even if you got cut every year, it was in your mind and you were working through the weekends while other people were out and doing other things, but you stayed consistent and loyal to your goal and were willing to do the work to get to that goal. Right. We never even talked about this before, but in high school, I tried out for the basketball team a couple of times. I ended up getting cut every time. And I was a manager on the women's team. And they never ever invited me to go back and join the market. so I guess you were more determined than I was in that regard. But thanks for sharing that. There's another thing I do want to kind of pull out what you said. So you were at this after you were in Colorado Springs, and then you stopped. You were working as a babysitter. Did you say that? You did say you were babysitting, right?
At first, yes.
Okay. So
first.
Yeah. So you said you were babysitting, and then eventually you kind of went into some software and with Lockheed because that's what you're doing. But like this whole thing of where you were, and you just played college ball at one of the most like best college universities and basketball that exists, and then you went to babysitting. So I'm just curious as to where humility came into the way that you perceived what you were doing. Because I don't think most people would think if you're playing a major D1 school that you would go to babysitting and then eventually get to your goals and your dreams.
Yeah, extremely humbling. As I see a lot of my friends were going over and achieving their dreams while playing overseas and making a lot of money, and barely making things, work, living in someone else's house. It's definitely a humbling experience, and recognizing that, nothing's promised, but, at the same time, deep in my heart, I knew where I was supposed to be, and that was just a matter of time. So, it was great that I used that time just to kind of study and learn and things like that, but definitely not the easiest experience, to be honest with you, but a necessary experience for me to start recognize that it's not, the timing might not always necessarily be what I want or desire, but if I'm in the right place and I'm doing the right things, then the right things are going to happen to me.
I love that, man. Doing in the right place, doing the right things, and then eventually doing the work the results will start to show themselves, which I think is great. And thanks for taking us back to that moment with you, because I think it's part of it. Sometimes we just kind of think, oh, you've done this and you've done that, and it's all been easy. But you've just given us two very clear examples of how it's not easy, but you got to be focused and your eyes on the prize and be willing to do the work, which is great. And so, you had this opportunity. Then you were in North Carolina and you decided that you were going to leave and go to the Philadelphia area, and you started living out a dream there. And then you were out in Colorado. And then this whole thing about real estate kind of came about. You mentioned it high level, but like you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, but kind of why would someone who's even in Team USA basketball be worried about that, right? Because everybody thinks, well, you're doing this, you don't have to worry about anything else. What was the spark for you that even made you want to go into real estate, even after having read the book?
Yeah, the thing that really resonated with me was the ability to have, a passive income stream, and then the opportunity to have legacy, something that could last, not only for my lifetime, but for, my future family at the time. I didn't have a family at the time, but wanted to at least start laying the groundwork that I could pass on something I didn't have, growing up. I didn't have a trust fund or anything like that set up for me, but something I wanted to start the process and start that for my family moving forward. So the real estate piece kind of satisfied both of those areas where you can have something that's cash flowing well for you now and doing stuff, paying you while you're not necessarily, working at it, 100% all the time during the day. But also something that, as I hold on to it, that I could pass on, and not only the actual asset, but the lessons learned, to my family and to my children. So that's what really resonated. And our industry is so volatile, in the sporting industry, and, things can happen to change, at any moment. So having that foundation of, money's coming in and you're not necessarily worried about, the job was also something that was really important for me as well.
Okay. All right. So you saw that and you thought not just about the cash flow, you thought about legacy, right? And so that is something that I think a lot of people forget about, because it's not just about making money. Yes, money is important. And, I don't come from money. So I know that if you have it or you don't have it, I would rather have it, right? Because I know what it's like to not have it. At the same time, you have to be responsible by it. And that's when you start thinking about things beyond money. So legacy is something that is also something that resonates with me. And I know it resonates with a lot of our Going Long family. You're a really busy professional. You're in a high profile type of an arena. You're a husband. You're a father. You're traveling. You're an investor. You're a syndicator. How in the world do you manage to do so many of these things and do them in a way that is continuing to breed success?
That's the big lesson I'm learning still. And I say I've mastered it. But one thing I heard a great quote was, be where your feet are. So this ability to be present and give my full attention wherever I am has been a really critical thing. And then also, I read a book about getting things done and the ability to organize in a way my days and my times that will allow me to focus, fully and be free and be okay with what I'm doing right now. Sometimes, early on, I would be doing something and then I'd be like feeling guilty that I'm not spending enough time on this, and that caused stress in my life. But now, I'm getting better at organizing in a way that I can, selectively procrastinate on things I need to procrastinate on and not feel bad about it, and fully give my attention to wherever I am. So it's amazing how much time opened up when I could structure the days well, know where everything is, organize everything all in one place, see how the time is laid out, and then, really dedicate time to certain things and give my full attention there, as opposed to feeling stressed about what I'm really thinking about, am I going to get this deal funded, or am I going to get my reports written for work, that's my day job. I can see, this is the most important moment right now, and I'm going to give my full attention to this moment right now. And that's been a huge deal for me.
Oh man, I love that. Be where your feet are. So, and because so many of our Going Long family is in a very similar situation, it's always good for us to be able to hear not only just how someone is doing it, like you, BJ, also helping us to understand, like, this is a work in progress. This is something that we're continuously working to become better at, because we're all on this path to becoming. And so appreciate you sharing that insight with us as well. I want to pivot maybe a little bit more towards the real estate stuff, right? And this is kind of, I always have to talk about the long distance aspect, because you have now, you have at least in 2 different states, you have been in real estate, partaking in real estate and real estate transactions and things like that. I'm just curious for people that, you may be living in one place and you're moving somewhere else and you're finishing a transaction, or you're moving, but no 2 locations are the same, right? And so maybe if you could share with us, when you were looking at, when you were purchasing in different states, when you looked at the locations, how did you know that the locations were the right locations for you at that moment in your life with the context that you were living in?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough. One of my mentors had been through, some of the commercial real estate classes, and the class I took was called CI 101, and it gave me some information on. It's part of the CCIM, network, and kind of studying that a little bit, and it gave me the power to have the ability to make good decisions based upon, a model, and having a model and a spreadsheet. So we were able to talk through, and I could, fully get down what my criteria were, and I could understand what works for me personally and what I was looking for, ideally. So starting off in the Colorado Springs market, it was a market that, there is some cash flow, but there's also some appreciation there. And that both of those, things were important for me. I know some people, focus on the appreciation part of it. Some people focus on the cash flow part of it, but I was kind of greedy. I wanted a little bit of both. And so finding it there, and finding our first investment was a fourplex there in Colorado Springs. And, based upon the metrics, it showed that, one, the area was, the property, one, it wasn't kept up well. So I knew that if I improved the property, that it would increase its value, but also that the rents were below market. So I could, both improve the physical building, but also I could, raise the rents, and it would increase the value by a metric that really made the investment worthwhile for us, looking at the numbers and following that formula, following the model, and following those things, those lessons learned from my mentor, that really made sense. And it worked out tremendously, for us, and really got us kind of really going. At the time, it was my first big foray, and then having that little success, or actually it was a big success for me at the time, really gave us the confidence to go forward. So it's one of those things that was there. I could drive by it and I could see it, and it's not necessarily a criteria to have it, but for someone that's kind of, really starting off in real estate, it was nice that I could actually be there in the market and in the neighborhood to kind of see it kind of come about and understand, test my hypothesis and see what was true. So that worked out really well. Moving into the North Carolina market, we were kind of more looking for cash flow and trying to, scale up from what we were doing before. So finding another a market that was, kind of underappreciated a little bit, that had potential for growth. We settled into the High Point area market, which is now starting to take off some more. So we really like those areas that, might be not in the hottest areas, but are benefiting from growth from other areas. And that's really worked out well as a strategy for us. So we took the same model, made some improvements, increased the rents, and we're able to sell that for a decent profit this past year. So always kind of, taking into account how much value can we add there, how much, can we, in terms of rents, grow those, and then see how much value we can, totally get out of the building, once we're done with it.
Wow. So I love the way that you put that together, BJ, because what it does is it just reminds our going long family of really the process. Because first of all, in both scenarios, you talked about what it was that you were looking for, right? And looking for a number of things. But when you talk about a financial time for return, you talked about being able to find cash flow, right? And so then you went to those locations where you could find cash flow. And then from there, you're working with the teams that are able to provide you the result, whether you are purchasing the property A, B, or C. You already thought about it and did it the opposite way. Whereas a lot of people that are getting started will tend to go like, what's the property? Let me go buy the property. You got clear on what it was that you wanted. You decided, you found the location, you built the team, and then you were even able to make sure where you were able to really leverage what you learned in one market and just repeat the process. So rinse and repeat, right? Which is one of the things that really helps you to scale. When you're ready and looking to scale your business or your investment portfolio, right?
Absolutely, and can't underestimate the value of the team. You said that a couple of times, and you can't say it enough times, because if you have a solid team there that can help you with the renovation, the property management, the real estate agent help find you, deals in those areas, that is critical, in the whole process.
Yeah, I always kind of joke and say one of my favorite things is hashtag teamwork makes the dream work, especially for us long distance investors. Unless we want to be answering phone calls at 2:00 in the evening or in the morning or whatever the case may be. I do want to kind of go back to something that you told us about in the beginning, and you mentioned you were one of 6 children, and you talked about your mother raising 6 children, and I'm just curious, like, if you can think back to like where you are now, and I know I'm asking you to go way back in your memory, but you've been able to achieve a level that many would say is extremely successful. It's not something that has been given to you. And I just want to know, like, if you could think about lessons that you maybe learned from your family, specifically from your mother, that are even today you're recognizing that manifest themselves and they're helping you to be a successful individual.
Yes, 2 words come to mind: decisions and persistence. My mom said something that when my dad died, she said, "I decided we're going to make it." She made the decision that it was going to work and she was going to figure it out. And she persisted in that and didn't give up, So those are 2 of the words that always ring true when I think about that and kind of growing up. And that was always how she raised us. If you make a decision, you're going to stick with it all the way through to the end, and you're going to persist in it and do your best every single time. But it all starts with a decision. If you haven't made up your mind that you're going to do something, and regardless of what's going to happen, the consequences of it, you're going to live with it and see it all the way through, then without making that decision, it's not going to work out for you. Because the moment adversity comes and strikes, it's so easy to turn back around and go back. Just really quickly getting to touch on that story in Colorado Springs when I left Lockheed Martin to go to USA Basketball. Something that always stood out, for me when I made that decision, and I was telling other people about it, was a couple comments from various people like, "You're so lucky that you get a chance to do what you want to do." And that struck me as like, you guys they were making probably twice as much as I was at the time, things like that, but they were not happy. They were disappointed with their lives in a certain way that I made the decision to pursue my dreams, and they felt like they couldn't do that. And that always, stuck with me. And that the hardest part is to make a decision to do what you want to do or to pursue something. And then once you make that decision, you can actually pursue it and go with it with persistence, not giving up, regardless of what happens for you. If you know it's the right thing in your heart and you're pursuing what you love and it's, inside of yourself to do it, to go through and see it all the way through, because that's where you find the goal at the end.
Wow. I love that. And, I don't know if you're watching this, or if you were running on the treadmill, or if you were cleaning dishes or whatever, but you need to stop and just go back and listen to what BJ just said, because it's pure platinum. Like, it goes beyond gold. It's pure platinum. And BJ, you also made me think about, because there's so many of us that are in these high performing jobs and high performing roles and, earning, major salaries and things like that. But and you just said that, and also makes me think we just did a post recently, and we actually cited Les Brown. And I think it goes something to the effect of most people are afraid, or we're not living their dreams because they're living their fears. Right. And so when you don't decide, to your point, to actually take an action and just kind of go with the momentum and fear of doing something else. Yeah. I mean, you're never going to give yourself the opportunity to live out your dreams, even though it can be scary. So thanks for taking us back to Colorado Springs and those moments that were happening for you as well. So, because I think that is where we grow. Right.
Yeah, that's to me one of the critical things, kind of looking back, because one of the things I've been studying recently, I've filled my mind with a lot of knowledge, and I like to read and like to, to understand things. People can get analysis paralysis, where you're studying, you're reading, and that's what you're constantly doing, but you're not participating in the doing part of it. So you got to shrink. I've been studying some stuff from Bob Proctor, and he talks about shrinking the knowing doing gap. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of knowledge in your mind, but if you're not, doing something, have an effective action, with that knowledge, then, it's going to create, the results that you don't want. So being able to focus on the doing and the effective doing part of my life has been a real critical thing here recently.
Okay, great. So shrink that knowing and doing gap, get more to the doing versus just the knowing. Love that. Can I incorporate that in my kind of day-to-day from now on? All right,
I believe so.
Critical.
Critical.
Yeah, definitely. So the other thing is, I mean, so sport has been a big part of your life, right? And it's been a big part of your dreams. And having had an opportunity to realize on two different occasions your life goals, number one, just demonstrates that your dreams and goals can continue to expand. Once you achieve them, then they keep going, right? Would really like to know how sport, and specifically team sport, has helped you to continue to be successful, grow, and move closer to now your personal life goals that go beyond sport.
That's the thing. I tend to take it for granted some because I've always been a part of sports teams growing up, and that's kind of just been my life. But now recognizing that, shifting those lessons into the business world, I recognize that the power of communication, the power of goal setting as a group, the power of, having everybody on the same page and working together, and the ability to fight through things as a group. And that's been really critical, just in terms of transferring those lessons from the basketball court or the field of my deal to actually real life in business and other things like that. So yeah, to me, there's nothing greater than when you have an opportunity to achieve something with a group of people. It's one thing to achieve it by yourself and individually, but when you work together with a group of people and you all see it come together and recognize that you had a piece in that success, that is the absolute greatest feeling for me personally, just because, that everybody had to have a hand in this to work. And by doing it and accomplishing together, it has enhanced everybody's life. And we brought something to the world that, we couldn't do by ourselves, so taking that approach and incorporation, everybody having to pull their weight, being able to have thick skin and calling people out when they're not, and those set of things. And it's calling it out as truth. You're not a personal attack, but just something that needs to be said to get the group to where they need to be. That's been a critical piece just in terms of understanding that. And like I said, I'm still learning some of those lessons and applying those lessons better, but, there's no substitute of really, being able to really try and put it out there. And it's okay to fail, it's okay to not, have everything totally buttoned up right away. But if you continue to work together as a group, you can tweak your model and grow together and then make something really special as a group.
Yeah, so being able to achieve something as a group, like you said, it does become something that's very special. You also made me think about one of my past mentors that would tell me all the time, like, you want to be able to fail fast, forward, and frequently, right? Because that's how you continue to grow. That's where you learn, which is also one of the things that we're going to talk about before you get out of here, because we want to make sure that you help us to understand what some of the lessons that you've learned. But it is the way that you perceive failure is something that is so important, and embrace that. And then be able to learn from it. So I always love that because I did individual and team sports. And I think there is something very special about team sports, the coordination, the communication, as you just mentioned. And then once you're able to make all of that happen and achieve championships, it's just, it's fantastic. So, BJ, so we talked about investing and you kind of helped us understand that it's not just about the money. And so I know that you tend to focus now, I know where you tend to focus, but help us help the Going Long family understand kind of where is your focus now in terms of the investment world that goes beyond just the financial return?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because one of the biggest returns that I've achieved recently was the return of myself by investing in myself in the right possible way. So it's one of those things that I think the biggest shift in that, as I mentioned, talking to my friend yesterday, where I'm not necessarily chasing returns, in different areas, and it's given me a peace of mind that I'm not, over here following a shiny object, but I've had a calm and a peace because I've focused on myself and I understand what I need to do with myself. So I grew up, we were at times barely making it, and that created a paradigm for me that I've had to attack, recently in terms of, no, I can achieve, I can have more, but that's to require me to be a different person. And that's, to me, one of the biggest investments by me changing that paradigm, shifting my process mentally and really living from my spirit. That's something that, regardless of your religious beliefs, is something I think is important that we have we're part spiritual beings, and living from that, which is the mechanism that allows me to achieve and do more, because of that piece inside of me is eternal from my mindset. So being able to invest in that part of me, and recognizing that I can shift my mindset to me being more and doing more than I originally thought was possible, and seeing those returns has been the biggest difference. And because of that, I've actually seen more opportunities come my way. It's amazing how that's worked, that that now things are being presented to me, and I've been able to take advantage of deals and things like that without the effort and the work that I was trying to do before. I was spinning my wheels, like going here and there, trying to find the next thing, and all those kind of things. But me stopping and slowing down, and then focusing on developing me has been the biggest shift, and that's created the biggest returns in my life to date.
Yeah. So you get that you're focusing on continuing to have your education, you're shrinking that gap between knowing and doing, right? And so one of the things also too, as you're talking to us, is to help us recognize that because you were doing so much of the work before, the doing, as you take a look back, now you're able to really recognize, okay, you were doing so many things that it's not an accident, right? That now these things are starting to move towards you, right? Because you've created that gravitational pull where things are now moving in your direction, right? And I think that is great, because it's another testament to the work that you continue to do on your path to becoming, right? And so another thing, so you talked about the education, and you're focused on being able to get returns and financial returns, right? And at the same time, you're going into specific areas. Like part of your investment thesis is really about, okay, I want to go into a specific area, and it's not just about getting the financial return. It's not just about contacting new people. You also want to be able to do a specific impact in the communities in which you're now investing. So maybe help us to understand a little bit more about those other motivations as well.
Yeah, the name of our company is Metamorph Investments. So we seek change wherever we are. So taking existing properties and transforming them into vibrant communities. That's the focus, and even partnering with the people there to help change and transform their mindsets to something greater as well. So that's the desire, that wherever we are, to be able to implement those kind of changes and seek those changes wherever we are, to implement those in the community and bring value wherever we are. So not only investing in the buildings, but looking to invest in the people as well, to be able to produce some great changes in their lives.
And so once again, make an impact and transformational, right? From the metamorphosis that happens is fantastic. Where does that come from, or how easy is that actually to do? Because you're not just doing this by yourself. You're actually, once again, you're building teams of people that you've got to get around the same common goal. So maybe tell us a little bit about how you go about doing that.
Yeah, the team is, like I said, the most important part of our process, in terms of really allowing them, one, to make sure that we're operating with the same paradigms as well. So going in there with the same heart, the same desire that we're going to do right by the people that are there, and take care of the people that are there. So if they don't have that heart, they're only desiring to get the money and run, then our values aren't going to align, and we're not going to achieve the desired result that we want to achieve. So one, by partnering with like-minded people, whether it be property management, whether it be, with our contractors that are doing, renovation work and things like that, it all matters. Everybody has to be aligned in order for us to achieve that. So once those goals are aligned, and we have the heart, our heart values are aligned, then that's when we can feel like we can do our best work.
Okay. Love that. And for people that think that that's something that just happens overnight, how easy or how difficult is it to actually make sure that you find someone that is someone's, if you can say that, that are aligned with your goals, and maybe how you check that? Because I think that's something that a lot of people don't know how to do, right?
That's probably the hardest part of the whole deal. You got to learn yourself and understand who you are, and have, solid values in terms of what you were going to fully believe. Because if you don't know what you believe, how are you going to be able to communicate with anybody else? And then the process of building relationships. That's why the process of building a team is probably the hardest part, but the most rewarding part of our journey, as investors, because you have to find, those people and build the relationships where you have a relationship of trust that you can share back and forth, and not be offended if they say something, one way or the other. But it takes time. It takes time to build that. So So before going into a new market, recognizing that's, you have to have those boots on the ground to be able to find those people that align. And sometimes it's a matter of, if you find one person, a lot of times they know somebody else that's kind of a like-minded person as well that you can add to the team. So really finding those people, and assembling them, and one, knowing yourself, what you value, and then finding those people on the ground in those different areas that are required to make your team what it needs to be for real estate purposes. Having those things aligned, it takes time. It takes time to really get it together. But once you do have it, that's when you can really build something special, and the properties kind of take care of themselves when you have that system in place.
Okay. Well, and love that you shared that with us as well, BJ. And, for the Going Long family, this is an amazing opportunity right now that BJ is really sharing with you just some of the key things that you need to think about. And number one, I was asking him about how he makes sure that the team is the right team. And he's reminding us to look inside of ourselves first, right? And be able to understand what we're looking for in that clarity. And so, you're getting, I hope you're taking lots of notes, everybody, because he's just like leaving all kinds of like knowledge all over the place. So I guess, but before we get into the Going Long final three, because everybody, we've always got to get to the Going Long final three. Help us to understand kind of what is, I guess, what's happening with what's going to be happening with Metamorph Investments, and kind of give us the next 2 to 5 years. What does that look like, man? So people can understand and be near you, be with you, to help us understand what does the future look like for you and for Metamorph.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think we have a bright future ahead. We're going to love the area that we're in right now in North Carolina, especially in the Greensboro area. It hasn't taken off in terms of the rapid growth that Charlotte and Raleigh has, but I think it's well positioned to do that. So we're focused on there. We started my first development project there in Greensboro. So that's getting going. We're looking to break ground next month on a 5 townhome unit development there. So learning the lessons in terms of city permitting and all those kind of things there. But I think there's a lot of opportunity, in that area to continue to grow and develop and take advantage of areas that might not have been kind of looked at before, but now people are starting to get eyes on because of the growth in those other markets. Now people are looking for different areas to grow. I think we're well positioned to continue to take advantage of our market knowledge of the city and the surrounding areas to continue to build value, both in multifamily, some single family, and then we're actually just forayed into some commercial space as well. So looking to grow our portfolio and continue to develop that and for the legacy that I want to pass on to my family, as we talked about at the beginning. So,
okay, no, and that's great. And so it looks the future looks very bright. You're definitely highly involved in the area. Help us. I am going to ask you just one other question, because there may be a lot of people that everybody talks about Charlotte and everybody talks about Raleigh, but for those people that don't really know, could you just give us some high level things that it would just help them understand, like, these are some of the reasons that Greensboro is one of the best places that you should really be looking at, or just some facts that maybe people don't really think about for Greensboro?
I would say there's we call it a triad. So Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point are the 3 cities that are kind of really in proximity. So everybody kind of looks at the whole area. We're more focused in Greensboro, but the area in general has a number of major colleges and universities and trade schools that are there. Over 10 to 12 of those colleges and universities that are there. So a great young talent pool and young energy that is in that area. It's not as pricey as Charlotte and Raleigh is. They haven't grown. The city hasn't grown there as much as those other areas. But at the same time, people are looking to get out of those markets, and it's only a short hour and 20-minute max drive to those different markets. So it allows people to live a little bit remotely, especially now in COVID times. You can kind of, if you have to commute into the work, Greensboro, Winston, High Point, the area allows you to get to those markets, in about an hour's time, but at a cheaper price point. So there's a lot of growth there. Businesses are being attracted there. High Point has the furniture market, which is there and driving a lot of growth. High Point University is achieving a lot of growth there, and the energy from college and university students that are there, as well as a lower price point. I think has a lot of great attractive things to it that allow it to be set up for growth in the future.
Okay, well, and that helps, right? So just thinking about you called it the triad, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you got the triad there, which is helping people to become more familiar with the area. Also thinking about just the number of universities that are there. as you mentioned, right, when there are universities, people go away and they have a nice college experience, and they would love to be able to have other employers be in that area, because then you can establish your life and your family and things like that. So, I mean, this at a really high level, just to kind of like people that weren't really aware of what was happening in the area. I think it's really, really helpful for them, and I'm sure that a number of them will reach out to you to find out even more stuff after the fact. But I guess, look, BJ. Am I forgetting to ask you anything, man? Anything that you think we need to know?
Not off the top of my head. I'm looking forward to the final three. I think I have some
all right.
great recommendations I really want to dive into.
So. All right, here we go. Yes, this is it. But you know the thing, right? I never ask you the going long final three unless you tell me you're ready. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
I knew you would be. All right, here we go. So question number 3, or the first of the going long final 3, is we've already talked about before, kind of where you are in the United States. And now I'd like to bring it back over this side of the pond. So help me and the entire Going Long family know, what is your favorite European city, either that you have visited, hint, hint, either that you visited or is still on your bucket list to visit?
Hands down, and I've been there a few times, Barcelona, Spain is like the greatest city. I'm not saying that just because you're there. It's just a bonus because I love the food. I love the people. I love the art. I love everything about that city, the beaches. There's so much there. So Barcelona, hands down, is the greatest city in the world.
All right, perfect. So there you go. So there's another vote for Barcelona, and I guess I'll be ready for you to come back over this way. I got a nice place I can take you for coffee.
Absolutely.
That's an inside joke. So the other thing is, and I always joke about this, right? You're a successful person. You're continuing and you're on your path to becoming. And the thing that I've always found with really successful people is that really successful people usually have only made one like mistake or had one learning. Okay, I always get that wrong. But anyway, I get distracted. So the thing is, like, you probably had lots and lots of these learning opportunities or failures and things that we were talking about before. But if you could think of one thing, like one specific failure that happened, but more importantly than the failure, like what lesson did you learn and you're now applying so that the entire Going Long family could learn from that? Love if you'd share that lesson with us.
Yes, it happened recently, a couple of years ago, where I was trying to do a development project in the Raleigh-Durham area, a city called Holly Springs. And it was a challenging project because of it was a land assemblage with some family members and things like that. So I was going after it, but in the back of my mind, I was always scared that it wasn't going to work out. And because of that, I had a level of doubt, and I felt like I communicated that doubt to people, whether it be investors or even to the family members at the time. And I feel like the project, someone else actually came and bid it higher for the land. So I had to let it go. But in the back of my mind, it wasn't really about the project. It was more about me not having the firm faith in that it was going to work. And I had the tools to make it work, and that, I was going to figure it out. There was a little bit of element of doubt in my mind because of that. And just based upon the things I'm studying now, I feel like that doubt was communicated, to others, and it didn't allow them to jump on board. So if I could change anything about that, I'm taking that lesson that I've learned, that I'm going in, once I've done my homework on a project and I believe it, I'm full faith going forward in it. I'm not going to, allow doubt to creep in, regardless of the circumstances, the situations that are out there. I'm going to believe it's going to work, and it's going to work, and I'm not going to allow any doubt to creep in, because that doubt gets communicated, whether it be to investors that you're trying to, pitch for the project, or even people that you're working with, inside that, or your team. If you allow doubt to be communicated anyway, then that allows there to be some division, and things could not work out because of that.
Okay. So you're making the decision to not let doubt into your mind once you move forward, and helping us to make sure that is a part of what we're doing on a daily basis. So appreciate you sharing that. And you know what, BJ, you've given me a number of book recommendations in the past, have them. And I know that you're a master of reading. You talked about the knowledge and also even taking that knowledge and doing. And so I would love for you to share with the Going Long family, what is a book that you would recommend to us?
Can I cheat and do two? They kind of like connected.
You're deciding that you're going to give us two, right?
I have to, because they're so powerful. Okay. So one, psycho cybernetics has been a really key book for me recently, Maxwell Maltz, and it talks about a cybernetic instrument. We all know, those are like a thermostat. Whatever temperature you set in a room, regardless if you open up the door, cold air blows in, it takes the temperature down, it's going to get back up. Or if it gets too hot, it's going to bring the temperature back down. And recognizing that our minds are cybernetic instruments, so that if I'm set on, I'm just going to be barely, going to make it, just barely making it by, or that, I'm focused on, my past hurts or experiences that did not serve me well, and I've failed and things like that. That whatever my mind is set at, whatever my paradigm is, those are the results that are going to be produced in my life. So that's been a really game changer for me, just in terms of how I need to set my mind on success and recognize that I can achieve, and we're doing that work on the inside of me first, because that's the level that I'm going to be at. And the other one I'm going to slide in there against your rules. It's called U Squared by Price Pritchett. It's a huge book. It's only 35 pages, so very quick read. 40 minutes, probably to get through it if you're listening. But it talks about making yourself, if you could square yourself, you could take yourself to the whatever power, how much that produces, and the things that you can achieve that are, and make those quantum leaps in your life, where some people are satisfied with incremental results. But we can take those quantum leaps in our lives. So those are the two books I would highly recommend.
All right. So you get 2 books, man. You get 2 books. So now guess what? Everybody's going to be asking me for 2 books now.
I know. I'm sorry. I had to. I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist.
But, actually, so cybernetics is on my list, and U Squared, I actually looked for that book recently, but I could not get it delivered here to Europe. But there was one that a guy named Myron Golden, I heard him talk about, and he mentioned that Dan Pena this is one of the books that he recommends all the time as well. And so I was looking for that, and I thought, I'll have to, I'll figure out how to get it. So it's all good. So perfect. Cybernetics and U Squared. So, wow. PJ, man, super cool. Like I said, I think the biggest thing is, we talked about 3 Olympic gold medals. We talked about being able to live out your dream twice, and helping us understand that when you're on the path to becoming, then that's something that continues to change, right? Your goals change because you are fluid and you're moving in the direction. You talked about how you have to continue to shift your paradigm as you're on this path to becoming. You've talked about how real estate has played a role in your life, not just in terms of being able to create financial return, create more control. It's also one of the pillars of you being able to create legacy, right? In terms of not just what you can achieve, but how you achieve it through education. You talked about how you continue to focus on lowering that gap or minimizing that gap between knowledge and doing, because you're going to take the knowledge and then actually do, and you're going to continue to grow. You are focused on now, not just in your day job, right? Being successful. You will continue to be a successful husband, successful father, and you're also continuing to make positive impacts through investing in the markets where you are. And you've even helped us to understand today some of the reasons that you love the triad in terms of where you are in Greensboro. And so I'm just like, boom, this has been an amazing conversation. And I know that I'm kind of thinking, man, how can I get in touch with BJ? How can I find out more about what he's doing? This stuff, like, I want to be a part of this. I want to know more about what he's got going on in the Greensboro area. So help everybody here on the Going Long with the Going Long family understand, how can we get in touch with you? What's the best way to get in touch with you so we can learn more about you and also what you're doing at Metamorph Investments?
Yes, you can visit my website at www.metamorphinvest.com. So METAMORPH invest.com. That has a kind of a background story of who we are and what we're looking to do and all that. And then you can also send an email to info@metamorphinvest.com. And I'll be able to get those emails and respond back directly. I'm not huge on social media at this point, but those are the best ways right now to kind of get in touch with me.
All right. So go to metamorphinvestments.com, info@metamorphinvestments as well.com. And I know that we mentioned the book that you were in, and I know that on your website, this is a book that you actually were part of with other people like Darren Hardy and Les Brown. And I mean, you were in this book as well, right? I mean, and that's something that you also have on your website. People can find out more about your specific chapter as well, right?
Yeah, please visit the website. And by visiting the website, you can download my specific chapter and also have a link to purchase the book as well. But yeah, definitely, that was a humbling honor for me to be a part of that book and that project with so many accomplished authors, some that you already had on the show as well. So definitely feel fortunate and blessed to be a part of that. But it shares definitely my story, gets into, another one of our passions, which is adoption. It's another thing that we look to bring value to the world through that way as well. But definitely encourage you guys to go to metamorphinvest.com and download that chapter to find out more about what we do and how we're doing it.
All right, fantastic. So listen, BJ, I can't thank you enough, man. It's been a pleasure to welcome you here on the Going Long podcast, and I really want to say thank you so much for investing your time, your energy, your stories with me and the entire family today. So thank you very much, man.
Thanks, Bill. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Fantastic. So listen, everybody, just a quick couple words for the Going Long family. I mean, BJ, he just left so many gems for you to be picking up. I hope that each and every sheet of paper that you've been writing is like full, that you're motivated to reach out to him. He's got a big heart. He's got lots and lots of knowledge, and he's willing to share. So that I think is just phenomenal. So, and also too, look, you have a unique opportunity to do it. As I say it every single time that we're here with one another, share today's episode with at least 2 to 3 other people. I mean, there are so many people that can learn from the experiences that BJ has lived through. I'm sure that there are specific stories that he talked about that is going to make an impact on somebody else. And you have that unique opportunity to be a positive impact on those 2 to 3 other people, right? And then also too, BJ and I really want to know, like, what are the things that you enjoyed about today's conversation? Let us know. Leave an honest review about the things that are helping you, things that you wish we would have talked about, things that you would like for BJ to come back and talk about. All these things are really, really helpful. Also too, to help us to be able to attract other fantastic guests like BJ. So take your time, leave us an honest review on your platform, on your Apple platform, things like that. And you know what? I'm super excited to welcome you back on the very next conversation. And so until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much.